A seismic shift is transforming Nigeria's fuel market as Dangote Petroleum Refinery makes its bold entrance into fuel distribution, a move that's already sending waves through the entire energy sector. What does this mean for fuel prices, competition, and the power dynamics of the downstream ecosystem? The implications stretch far beyond today's headlines. But here's where the story gets truly contentious. Critics warn of looming monopoly, while others see the seeds of healthy market rivalry sprouting. Let's dive into this evolving landscape and explore why Dangote's distribution strategy is shaking the foundations of Nigeria's oil sector. The early days, Dangote's high-stakes conflict and industry pushback. When Dangote's $20 billion refinery kicked off petrol production in September 2024, it reignited smoldering tensions in the downstream oil sector. The refinery almost immediately found itself in hot water with regulators like the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, and key operators including the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL. The core of the dispute? International oil companies, IOCs, were reluctant to meet their domestic crude oil supply obligations, choosing instead to prioritize exports, leaving Dangote struggling for reliable feedstock. At the same time, Dangote raised red flags about imported fuels permitted by regulators, labeling them as substandard. It also criticized the lack of clarity around actual fuel consumption in the domestic market. While some data appeared to back Dangote's claims, others pushed back. Regulators and downstream competitors cautioned that a giant like Dangote could tip the industry into a monopoly. But the real picture is more nuanced. Industry analysts at ProShare highlight a thin roster of participants: Dangote, NNPCL refineries, Niger Delta Refinery, and modular refineries, and suggests that Dangote's sheer scale could make it a price leader in what they call a non-collusive industry landscape. Regulatory shakeup and market dynamics. What changed? Big regulatory moves paved the way for this disruption. In May 2023, Nigeria abolished its long-standing fuel subsidies, allowing market forces to set prices, a monumental change that set the stage for greater competition. The launch of the Dangote refinery in 2024 amplified these changes, but didn't instantly slash petrol prices. Instead, fuel prices began to mirror the bumps and dips of world oil markets, impacted by everything from geopolitical turmoil to currency fluctuations and inflation. Armed with a formidable 650,000 barrels per day capacity, Dangote aimed to cut out layers of intermediaries, putting itself in a prime position to influence supply and potentially prices nationwide. Consider this: by bypassing depot operators and delivering directly to retailers, Dangote is not only making fuel more readily available, but also reducing the notorious practice of product hoarding and creating opportunities for efficiency across the board. A new distribution model with disruptive potential. Dangote's nationwide distribution model is about much more than logistics. It's a calculated push to alter the market's DNA. By selling directly to retailers, Dangote could shrink the influence of depot operators, giving retailers quicker access to cheaper supplies and making fuel hoarding harder to pull off. Existing players like NNPCL and smaller independent marketers now face mounting pressure to renegotiate contracts and rethink their pricing to stay relevant. The deployment of 4,000 compressed natural gas (CNG-powered trucks, rolled out at no additional cost to retailers, further intensifies competition, potentially squeezing logistics providers who suddenly find their services less necessary. And this is the part most people miss. Although Dangote is absorbing hefty upfront logistics costs, the sheer scale of the operation promises substantial savings. With CNG-powered fleets replacing costlier diesel trucks, Dangote is betting on higher volumes to offset the free delivery, a strategy that could yield greater profits over time. But in the short run, such aggressive pricing could upend existing price structures, compelling others to adapt or get left behind. Impact on pump prices. Is a price war looming? The era of regulated fuel prices in Nigeria ended alongside the subsidy regime. However, the market has long relied on major suppliers, especially NNPCL, to anchor prices. Now, research shows that Dangote's refinery, as the country's largest, is making its presence felt in ways that directly impact everyone's wallets. By slashing intermediary and logistics costs, Dangote's model is expected to trim NEN to NEN 15 per liter off pump prices, as retailers benefit from direct, depot-free supply. Yet, it's not all smooth sailing. NNPCL, still heavily invested in traditional depot pipelines and partnerships, incurs additional costs up to NEN 15 per liter when compared to Dangote's streamlined logistics. If this new distribution model sticks, import-dependent marketers might struggle to compete, while domestic refiners with similar scale and efficiency could still find a way to break even. But here's a point certain to spark debate. Could Dangote's relentless drive to dominate the supply chain make it the de facto price setter for the entire country? Will this stimulate widespread competition or snuff it out? We want to hear your take in the comments. Will Dangote's model force other producers to drop prices and still survive? Or is a new monopoly already in the making? From imports to independence, the bigger economic picture. Let's zoom out for a moment. Over the last decade, Nigeria's own refining capacity lagged, and the country shelled out a staggering N$12.48 trillion on fuel imports in 2024, almost 35% of the national budget, as imports soared from $2.85 trillion just 6 years earlier. The economy suffered from relentless pressure on its foreign exchange reserves and volatility in pump prices. Enter Dangote with local, large-scale production of petrol, diesel, and aviation fuel, enough to start rewriting the rules. With initiatives inspired by the Old Petroleum Equalization Fund, PEF, Dangote isn't just competing. It's setting new benchmarks with regionally differentiated pricing and credit facilities for bulk buyers. Selling in local currency further shields the sector from exchange rate volatility and aligns with the government's Naira for crude ambitions. Still, challenges persist. Shortages of crude supply and currency mismatches continue to complicate the refinery's best-laid plans. Replacing subsidies with market-driven equalization, historically, the Petroleum Equalization Fund aimed to stabilize prices but was marred by inefficiencies and corruption, often failing to ensure equity in pump prices. Now, Dangote is leveraging direct distribution, big investments in CNG-powered tanker fleets, and logistical efficiency to lower costs and guarantee national reach, without the crutch of government subsidies, which officially ended in 2023. However, there's pushback from import-dependent players and supply chain bottlenecks remain. Still, it marks a major shift from state-controlled solutions to market-led innovation, and could be the remedy to chronic fuel scarcity and price spikes. Efficiency, cost leadership, and market.